7 show, tune in for that, and then Twitch is that one. Tune for full analysis live. Tweet that. Is YouTube coming up? There we are. Brilliant. All right, so we're up on all the platforms. We're tweeting. So people can tune in. We're bugging all of the Slack channels. Show starts. Tweet that there. Top of the hour. We got like 15 minutes before the show starts. Right, we got those channels. We got them. We're not bugging anybody on Discord. Oh, I guess we could bug. Nah, we're not going to bug those guys. They don't want to fucking watch this. Only Eve people want to watch this. Randos don't. Alright. We should be coming up live. Every platform should be live. Looks like we've got about 15 people watching so far. Be sure to bug your favorite corpies or your least favorite corpies to come get in here. Should be a interesting show. Let's see. Anything else? We've got that. Okay, we're good. There's that. Cool. Zeeks, you want to go look up Eve Mogul has some great YouTube videos about going from 0 to super rich. You should go check out on YouTube. There are some blogs and stuff about working with like less than 100 million ISK. The 10,000 ISK challenge, I think, is what they call it. So that would be the place to go look for stuff. All right, guys. Welcome to the show. We're gonna start in about 15 minutes. Everybody who's here because of 07, 07 right back at you. Show runs about 45 minutes. I don't tend to answer questions during the show. We start at the top of the hour, go over a whole bunch of graph porn. I tell you what's happening, what I think is going to happen, and then the last part of the show is where I eat a bunch of shoe about how I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. So be sure to stay to the end for that. The graphs are all made using R. The candlesticks are using QuantMod. I have a link to how to do that. I'm going to have a whole guide actually out about more plotting stuff coming up here over the weekend. I got a big project that should be launching over the weekend. So you'll be able to do more plots like we do here on the show on your own time. You won't have to bug me. Let's see what else. Then if you guys haven't read the blog, which I totally understand, it's super dry. The other piece of the show is that a lot of this is automated. There's a Python script that runs statistical analysis under the hood to try and find what is worth reporting. And that's kind of why we're going to have a hiatus. This is my terrible segue into the summer hiatus. Is that when things are hot and things are moving a lot? So during World War B or during the fall peaks, there's a lot to report on, and the system runs. The system runs well and picks up a lot of information. The problem is that when we get into the quieter months, as we're going into here in the summer, the flags die down and it becomes a lot more rote, a little more boring, and it doesn't really justify the amount of time it takes to produce this show. If I'm just going to tell you, Tritanium is the same as last week, Pyrite is the same as last week, like, if there's no news, then why spend what ends up being about 5 hours a week producing the show? So I'm going to go on to hiatus. Going to be partnering with Eve Mogul to see if we can publish some more of our data feeds out to you guys through Eve Mogul. We're going to be releasing, hopefully over the weekend, our first jab at technicals. Jeronica is putting together the candlesticks, and I am feeding him the data to do it. And that API will be public. Next thing on our to-do is to build an SSO portal so I can give you guys API keys so you guys can access the raw data if you guys wanted to, so you can get at the hourly Eve Central data we've got here. And then to rewrite the stats package so that I can start doing flagging, like build an entire timeline of flags. So that will help us be able to identify things that are interesting, because if they things that only trigger one flag or two flag are not going to be as interesting as when everything triggers and alarm bells start going off, and that's going to make for to really give some more power to some further tools down the line. But I can't build those new tools until I have the statistics scripting done. So that's what I will be doing over the summer. Otherwise, so sorry for all you new 07 guys. We will be, the last show I believe is June 3rd. So we'll still have a couple more weeks of shows. But then we will still be doing the 07 market briefs, maybe one show whenever there's an 07 market brief, just to sort of go over what's happened since we were last on the air. And then we'll be off until probably September, just so you guys can, so I can get some work done, and then we can come back bigger, stronger, all that jazz. So let's see, how we doing for tune in? I was hoping for more. We usually get a lot from 07. All right. Let's see. Is my stream quality really that bad? I don't look like a potato on we gotta wait till everybody in the meta show comes out from being drunk. Oh, and I was on Talking on Stations a few weeks back. So hi again from Talking in Stations, and this week in New Eden, making the whole Eve Media circuit. It is raining here, and fair warning, there was some serious lightning going on just a little bit ago. So if the power drops and the show stops, you'll know why. And it's Seattle. It's always raining, right? We got about 10 more minutes before the show starts, so feel free to ask any other questions if we can get those out before the show starts proper like. I don't have a bunch of shiny news. I was really hoping, like, the whole goal for the week, and I got so fucking close, so freaking close. I'm seriously like 3 hours away from finishing the thing. Was to announce on the 07 show that we were making a new endpoint just so you guys could get the open, high, low, close stats. and then Eve Mogul was going to launch those. But I couldn't get. I have 2 more pieces waiting on it. I've got to finish doing the Quandlify JSONing, and I need to figure out how to stage Flask apps for the real world. Running them all internally makes a bunch of sense, but have a problem with I want to be able to deploy multiple Flask apps on multiple ports, and I just don't know enough web hackery to make it happen. So that's the only those are the 2 things holding us up. If I can just get a good couple hours, either Friday night or Saturday, I should be able to put the bows on that, and you guys can. And then I'll have sample R scripts out for you, so you can run in. I may even do a quick YouTube-y thing about here's how you get started in R, and here's how you can be CCP Quant. I don't know if anybody wants to watch that. It would be super boring. Programming YouTube is really dry. So I don't track the skin and apparel markets because the data on them is just not reliable enough. It's too easy to just skip the market entirely and never actually touch down on a feed I can query. So by and large, things should be at Plex parity. Whatever the Plex RM conversion rate is, you should that should be your guide. But if you have RM, the best way to cache that out, the fastest way to cache that out is through extractors, not through apparel, because it's going to take forever to sell it. So I would rather take the faster ISK than get another 2% from waiting forever for apparel to sell. And I know I did get emails this week. I have not had any time to respond. I did read them. Whoever was writing about the Morphite, I really did appreciate that. I just didn't. I'm sorry. Oh, and a couple of people are asking about the spreadsheet I keep talking about, and I owe you guys links. I know. I'm going to try and do that after the show here. No promises, though, because, I've just been so damn busy. Doing a big project at work and trying to cram in. I was trying so hard to meet the deadline for releasing that API, and I missed, and I suck, and sorry. This is why I tell all you guys to come onto the Tweet Fleet Slack, because then you can DM me, and I am much faster and easier to respond to DMs than I am to Eve stuff, because I'm sorry. I don't have time to actually play. I have to make a show. This is my Eve anymore. Let's see, what else? Oh, excuse me. Oh, shit. Let's see, what else? I don't have a bunch of interesting stuff to say. I think I've blown my conversational load here. What else do we have? I'm always on the Tweet Fleet Slack. I haven't So, if you guys want to know about the Citadel markets, Rivra has really been knocking it out of the park, and she is on Talking in Stations, I believe, usually. Also on Eve Guardian. So that's who I've been defaulting to. I have not had any time to dig into the mechanical aspects, which are kind of broken, um, and when it comes to putting stuff into my models, uh, I need time. I can't do anything statistical until 60 days. It's a complete waste of the tools to try and go any faster than that. Um, I can do it in 30 technically, but it's not as good. And so, yeah, all of the tools I've written are designed to require some amount of bulk data, and the Citadel stuff is doubly hard because they're invisible to the API feeds, which is problematic, extremely problematic. That they're going to be invisible to my analysis. We can talk about some of the spreads that they're gonna cause some of the spreads they're going to change, especially with the offshoring mechanics. But I don't think the impacts are going to be. I think the impacts are going to be really narrow, and they're going to be really hard to detect. And I'm going to have too much noise to really do much with them to start until CCP fixes or enables or comes up with more stuff for the APIs so that I can actually do anything with it. This show runs entirely off the API, and if I don't get data, I can't present it. It just doesn't. I can't get it into R. I can't I can't do analysis. I can't script it. So the Citadel markets are going to be a big blind spot, and they're probably going to be a blind spot for the next 6 months. And I don't think there's anything I can really do to fix it, given the way the things are going to work. So we can talk about some of their impacts. We can watch some of the margin spreads, and we'll be working on that at least. But without automation, I can't add it to the show. I am not doing anything that requires me to capture by hand or to scrape the cache or to do any of that kind of stuff. That is too high a bar to cross for producing this show every week. So that's why I say go check out Rivra's stream. I'm sure this is a place where DeLone Wolf will have better access than me, since he does all of his analysis in game as opposed to out of game. And that's just going to have to be that's just a weakness of the platform. So sorry. With that, looks like we're hitting the top of the hour. So let me get the. I don't know what Reaver streams on. I know she's on Talking in Stations on the Matani.com at 0100 on Fridays, Saturday in game. So they'll be tomorrow. She and Caleb Aranya should be on Talking in Stations, I believe, with Matterall and that whole thing. It's a good show. It's at a weird time that makes it hard for me to contribute. So let me get the thing started. Let me press the buttons, and we'll make things work. Splash page. Turn off the fan because I'm a professional. Good evening and welcome to the Eve Prosper Show. I'm your host, Lockefox, and I'm here with all of the Citadel news fit to shake a stick at. So let's start where we normally do with a little bit of show news. If I can press the right buttons, that's the right button. Just some quick housekeeping. One, if you guys are tuning in from the 07 show, welcome to the show. We're on every week, usually. We'll get to that at the end of this segment. If you guys are tuned in live and didn't see it, we released a market brief for the Citadels. A quick 2.5 minute doodad, so you guys can know basically a TLDR about what's happened in the last month and a half. So go check that out. It is up on YouTube. It's on the Eve Prosper YouTube page. Next, we have some news in the works, specifically that I'm working with Jeronica over at Eve Mogul to get, we're going to see if we can get a partnership so that we can maybe accelerate some of the releases of stuff. He will be the front end, I will be the back end. We have a feed so close to complete. His side is done, mine is not. Check the blog over the weekend. I should have it launched and some example code for you guys, so you guys can look at it here coming up. Have some big plans to get you guys the same data I have, so that if you guys want to run your graphs and look like super geniuses, you'll be able to do so on your own time, and you'll be able to access the same feeds. So just keep tuned for that. It should be out Saturday or Sunday. Still working on it. Next, let's see. On to the last little piece is that we will be on hiatus coming up here. June 3rd is our last show of we're going to call it, I guess, a regular season. After that, we will be off the air most likely until September. This is so that I can go recuperate and get some more tools done. The show does take a significant amount of time to produce and show you guys. And the summer tends to be a little bit on the quiet side, so it's a good chance for me to double down on some of the tools, pay up some of that tech debt, and get you guys new graphs and new feeds and new utilities. Have some plans to work on that. We'll keep you guys posted. Be sure to subscribe to the feeds for that. We will still be producing 07 briefs as long as they're doing those. And if there's any particularly huge news, I expect to have an Eve Prosper show up, but just don't expect them every week over the break. That goes into our last subject. If you want to support the show, the very best place to do so is on our Patreon, patreon.com/EveProsper. Our patrons keep this show on the air, free of charge to you guys, ad-free, and really make this show possible. They pay for our hosting fees and all of the tool fees. And in the spirit of fairness and the spirit of disclosure, I will be emailing all of the current patrons for the hiatus. We understand that no show, no pay. That is totally acceptable. If you choose to support us during the hiatus, we really appreciate it. Again, it goes towards improving the show. It goes towards making a better product for you guys. So one way or the other, we appreciate it. If you can't support us monetarily, that is absolutely fine. Be sure to tell all your friends to tune into the Eve Prosper Show. Go watch the backlog. Subscribe to us on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and the blog. All of those are at Eve Prosper. And I believe that is all of the show news for you guys. We will get straight into the real news. I clipped out the thing. So before we get started in the real news, the one piece I wanted to note is it sounds like the opportunities system is coming out next week. This is the dreaded dailies system. I haven't been keeping a great eye on it, but between the rewards of Project Discovery, I'm actually kind of excited for this system. I don't know what we'll see coming out the other side on this. Not sure how it will impact the market per se. I haven't had a chance to really dig into the actual yields and rewards, but the just so you guys know, that should be coming out next week. And to prepare, I expect to see more ISK in the system, which might raise Plex, but then more skill points might lower Plex. So that's sort of my quick and dirty 2 cents on that. So let's start where we always do, here in Plex. Plex continues to slide, but it looks like we are reaching the floor. We are under 900 at the moment, but the telling piece here is that the volumes have subsided. We're still in extremely weak territory. I still believe that this is absolutely the time to be buying and stocking up on Plex. But please understand that we may not get back to 1 billion before September. I expect positive trends. I expect a slow positive crawl back to 1 billion over the summer, as long as we don't see another cash crunch. But the prices are low, and it looks like we're reaching the bottom of this particular swing. Again, if we zoom out to the 1-year view, we can see that volumes are trailing oh so slightly, so very slightly from the highs we have been seeing, which means that this demand for cash on hand is starting to subside. And that's why I'm calling the turnaround here wherever we are now. Of course, this comes with a couple of caveats. One, that if CCP runs a Memorial Day sale, then prices will slump. That should be a temporary thing. If we see another big war breakout, which I just don't think that there's enough heat in the system to do so, we'll see things track down again. What I really expect here is that life should return to some amount of normal over the next few weeks into the summer, where people can go back into replenishing their storehouses of cash and wealth and material, and this will cause the buying pressure to increase on the things of Plex. Now, if we zoom in to the hour by hour playthrough, again, we're at 900. We're right on that hairy cusp for sell orders, and buy orders are creeping up very slowly. We can see that the Plex wall has burned through almost half of its load. Looks like we're at about 30%, 40% of the Plex wall burned off. And I think the prices are going to, again, trend positive, but weekly. So this is not a chance to jump in and make money. This is a chance to stock up if you need Plex, stock up if you are a skill point farmer, stock up if you have your liquid cash and you're looking to put it away. Now's a good time to be doing it. I think that we're here at the floor. I don't think that there's much more sliding to do. I think the demand for cash has finally subsided enough that we can move back into a net positive cycle for fountains and sinks. If we go ahead and zoom into the RMT markets, that's your Plexes, your multiple pilot training certificates, your resculpts, and your extractors. Things are looking relatively healthy. The extractors are back at parity with Plex. This is to be expected. They're really right in parity with Plex right at the moment, so looks like things are looking pretty good there. The prices on multiple pilot training certificates are trending a little bit lower than I would expect. I kind of expect that buy floor to creep up a little bit from where it is, but when it comes to sell orders, it looks like we're right where we should be. Next, the skill injector market. For the farmer, things are still looking pretty good. Even though prices keep sliding, we're still seeing a positive valuation for ISK per skill point. And though the absolute return has diminished, we can still see that the margin is roughly the same. For losing 50 ISK per skill point in Plex, we've lost 50 ISK per skill point in the the skill point valuation. So things are looking rather healthy. I do expect this to dip over the next week, seeing as fax skill points should be refunded. And this should cause the sell orders to spike a little bit higher. If volume goes much above 4K, I would think that it's a buy actually in the short term. Especially if you're looking to stock up on some skill points, if you're looking to backfill some of those high-end drone skills that are just a bitch to map for. I would be watching skill injectors for the next week or two to watch for the bottom of that to stock up if you're looking to jump in that market. Supplies should be pretty generous for the next 15 days after the patch. And then last, just to look at the sell order, the prices on injectors, 570 really looks like the floor here. We're still seeing a pretty decent markup at the other hubs, and the prices again might slide under that 570 mark. I don't have the buy prices on this graph, so I can't tell you exactly where to put an order, but I expect things to maybe get down to 550. I would stock up a fistful of these things for a rainy day at that point. I would rather hold skill injectors personally than Plex, because I think that they have more room for volatility. I think they have more room for interesting things, and Plex is boring, and Plex is going to be slow going for the next few months. So I'd rather bet on a slightly faster horse. That's just me. Moving on to market indexes, we're going to take a quick look at the net trade. Things are looking pretty good. The things I'd like to note here is the ship market down in the bottom in aqua or teal or whatever color that is, are trending downwards. And this is dragging down a lot of the markets are just trending downwards as a lot of the heat is starting to evaporate. I think that this period from YC 118.2 to Citadel is going to wash out to be particularly hot in the history, and we're returning back to a normal spot. So I think our ship and material loads will get back down to the 2 trillion mark, and RMT loads are going to get back under the 10 trillion mark. So I think that This is why I think we're settling into a reasonable normal. I think there's going to be plenty of activity. I think things are going to be healthy, but they're just not going to be as hot as they were during World War B. So get prepared for that. New indicator. Go ahead and send your feedback. Thumbs up if you like it. The total destruction stats. This is just taking the Z Killboard stats and averaging. Pulling all the counts and averaging it all together. I know there's a little bit of work to do. I don't like the way the moving average skews, but the look here is exactly what I think is going to be driving the market underneath the hood, is that we saw kill counts go up during through March and April and peak in the middle of April, and now they're trending downwards into May. I still think we're going to see the 10,000 kills per day base load stay healthy. I think actually we're probably going to be closer to 12K kills per day, but we're not going to be at the 15K or the 20K that we had been seeing over the summer. So where this goes, I think the general market in total is going to follow, just as a indicator of heat to the general heat of the market. Moving on to minerals. Tritanium is interesting. Looks like there was a bit of a mung up, screwing down the price down to 4. Don't really know what that's going to do. I got to figure out how to clean that up. Prices are looking a little bit down. If we zoom all the way in, though, things are looking relatively stable. Buy pressure is collapsing, though, so we may see a swing under 6 over the weekend. If you are a tritanium trader, I'd be looking for a place to jump in on this. It looks like during this show, actually, we might even get under 6. again, you're looking for what, 4 or 5% just to make your money back. So you'd have to, what's that? You'd have to make back. Here we go. Locke does math. If you bought in at 6, you'd have to make it up to about 6.5 to really make it worth your time. That'd be pretty generous. But I don't think this is a great speculation market, but I do think it's a great time for producers to get some cheap trit. This would be a pretty decent. It's looking like a pretty decent chance to buy in, especially with how weak the buy pressure has gone. Now, that might be the Citadel offshoring screwing up the numbers. As I was saying in the pre-show, and which may not have made it into the main show, they are the way that Citadels are done is going to cause a lot of problems to the way this show works. Citadel orders do not touch the API. The API cannot report on what's going on inside Citadels. And this show runs entirely through the API. And so if it's not in the API, I can't report about it. Now, what we might be seeing here is that buy orders might be getting offshored and causing the actual total quantity on market to be underreported. And I'm going to keep a close eye on this. If it ends up being a problem, we'll change the analysis. That's fine. But the honest to God truth is I'm just not going to be able to do a good job reporting the Citadel markets to you guys. DeLone Wolf's Eve Talk should have a better job of doing it. He gets to do the show in-game, so that should be a better place to do it. And be sure to tune into Rivra over at Eve Guardian. She is keeping a really close eye on those Citadel markets, so she is going to be the expert I will default to in that case. So that's my spiel about it. I'll probably re-spiel about it here at the end of the show too. Moving on to Pyrite. Pyrite is tracking down as well. Looks like we might touch 10. Again, we're seeing a similar pattern of a ramp in supply and a collapse in demand. Looks like the buy orders got particularly screwed up. But the prices are tracking down. Looks like we might hit 10 in the next few hours. Again, I think this is a pretty decent buy. I would be aiming for 9.5. That might be a little too optimistic. Getting it at 9.8 is probably more realistic. Again, I think this is a target for buying in for production more so than buying in for speculation. Mexilon, darling of the show, took another jump. We were at 70 last week, and we're up at 75 this week. So, mea culpa. I should have called it a little bit better. The prices I gave you last week was to jump out. We're not going to go much above 70, and then I eat my words. I think that we're a little artificially high, given the way that the buy and sell numbers are looking here on the bottom graph. And it looks like now at the time of the show, we're back to 70 again. So this is a good chance to, again, be selling. I would not be buying Mexilon, but if you were stockpiling it, this is a great chance to go burn a bunch of it. Looks like supplies are tracking up, so we should be back under 70 after the weekend. So I think this party is going to come to an end here this weekend. Isogen. Now, I had said Isogen over 100 was a sell, and that 90 price a few weeks back was a buy. That party is also over. And if we take a closer look, again, we can see the supplies are tracking up, and the buy pressure has been pretty strong. Excuse me. The prices are tracking down. They're not as strong as the crest feed would make you think. I still think the supplies are. I think the price under 100 isn't fair. So this would be a pretty decent time to jump in if you guys needed it. 95 is a pretty good price to be paying for this stuff. And if you can get over 100 again, you can get your 4 or 5% back. So getting a buy order in at 90 is not a bad idea. I don't know if that 100 target is really going to hold, though, so it's a risky bet where we're standing right now, especially given that I expect about 300 million more units of this stuff to come onto the market over the next, couple of weeks. Next, Noxium is staying relatively flat. I think I had called last week that it could have gone up again, but it looks like we're losing pressure there. Again, things are looking relatively stable. We're seeing a little bit of weakness in supply, tracking a little bit of heat pointing upwards, but otherwise the Noxium market looks pretty stable. The targets it's at, I don't expect it to move from. Zydrine, again, I think is overvalued at 1,200. And again, we can see that the supply is extremely strong and the prices really should have been falling by now. I don't know who's propping up the Zydrine market, because this amount of supply on the market says that the prices should be lower, in my opinion. Megasite is tracking up again. I'm glad to see it over Zydrine again, which has been a long time coming. Again, we're seeing a little bit of shortage, but I expect this to turn around in the next few days. So if you bought into Megasite, this would be a good chance to be selling out this weekend. I don't think that the prices are going to go much higher. I do expect about 50 million more units to be coming onto the market over the next few weeks, and the steady state heading to 150 million units on market would be about where I'd think that we're going to be in steady state once the O1Y stuff really cools down and people start living in that nullsec space again. And then Morphite, darling that it is, continues to go up. So again, to all of the people I told to sell last week, I feel super sorry about that, because we went from about 15K to 20K from a original target under 10K. Supplies are extremely short at the moment, probably due again to capitals. Thank you everybody who sent me along that information. I went ahead and dug into it a little bit deeper. It does look like a lot of this is going into those new capitals. I still think that things are a little too constrained, in my opinion. I don't think that I would hope that the land rush to upgrade capitals would be quick and fast, depending on since the people who have caps tend to be the kind of guys who've got the skill points to burn. So the fact that we're still in shortage is a little bit has me a little incredulous, but I think that it's hard to tell exactly where we're going. Again, if you've watched the show for any amount of time, you know that I'm pretty bad at predicting Morphite, as much as I'd love to be better at it. I think that by the end of the summer, we'll be back at the 7.5, 10 million units supply. At the 7.5 million or 10 million supply line, but I just don't know when we're going to get there, and that's really the key here. Moving on to fuel. Fuel is really interesting this week. Nitrogen is down in a big way. We saw that all of the fuels are tracking down, and this is probably due to some amount of weakness in, again, the PvP numbers going down, the capital operations kind of coming down. This means there's a lot less need for fuel. Also, with Citadels going up, there's less need to, especially in wormhole space, run a lot of these passes. You're going to get down to, instead of needing bases out in space, we're just going to get down to the utilitarian passes. And this is going to drive the fuel load down, but nitrogen in specifically has crashed big time. We've come off the 900. We're down under 950. We're probably going to go even further down. We're going to talk about that in just a sec, because I've got things out of order. This should be getting reflected in the fuel block markets, but Caldari fuel blocks still look pretty high to me. Everything else looks like it's taking the thing in stride, but Caldari fuel blocks continue to be high, which is a little bit weird. Also, I went ahead and pulled one of the longer graphs on this one. And the interesting story here is that back in December, October, we saw the constraint of supply come in. We really saw what I believe to be CFC clamping down on supply lines, so that the actual supply was halved, essentially. And this drove the price up, as you would expect, staying over 900. But what I had originally predicted was that as we went into skill trading in YC 118.2 and World War B in 118.3, we did see supply lines creep up as people needed cash and they liquidated stock. But we did not see the price crash like you would expect. For doubling the supply, we saw no price movement, which is weird to be able to actually sustain that price given the extra load. And then we saw the supply lines shrink again back under the 100 million mark. And as we went back over the 200 million mark, the thing that really sealed the deal here is that buy pressure just evaporated. So depending on how much tinfoil you want to wear, one, it's that Citadels can use any fuel, and by and large, except for a few of the nullsec regions, as long as you're within one freighter jump, you should probably be using the cheapest fuel you can get if you need to use fuel. Two, if you are a goon and you have been holding out, you're probably getting rid of all of your back stocks and just getting out of it. And we should see more miners coming to that north and west piece of the map. So that should start bringing the supply lines back up again. Three, we're not going to see as much fuel consumed thanks to Citadels removing some of the need for tower quantity. And four, if you want to really wear a really thick bag of tinfoil on your head, the shutdown, the interruption in Goonswarm logistics by having one of their high-end freighter services basically shut down is not doing anybody any favors with that many Rheas put back into storage. Just means that there's that much less nitrogen getting consumed. So I have no way to confirm that last one, so feel free, again, to call me a tinfoil chewer on that one. So I really find this interesting that after 6 frickin' months of telling you guys that nitrogen was coming down, just you wait, the sky is falling, it finally happened. Which is, it just didn't happen when I thought it would happen at all. I was wrong so many weeks, so I don't know if that counts as a win or a loss in this case. Moving on again to strontium, though, things are looking relatively stable. Supplies are creeping down, and prices are creeping up. The story here looks relatively stable. I think that this constraint is a little bit weird. But the prices haven't moved enough to really trigger anything, so I'm not going to make a big stink about it. Moving on to outliers. We're going to start where we usually do on the advanced material markets. Things are looking, again, this is the one I am keeping my closest eyes on. This is the one I am invested in, just to full disclosure. And what I had been saying is to watch the middle of this market, that things like your hypersynaptic fibers, your phenolic composites, your your fulleриdes, these should be tracking up with a lot of the moons getting into new hands and reactions getting rejiggered. So you're wrong. But so the two places I'd be watching are the top and the middle and the top. So then on the top you have your ferrogel and your fermionic condensates and all of the metamaterials, but the metamaterials are weird. We're seeing weakness down at the bottom, and I expect that to actually continue as new masters take over. With the new masters taking over, I expect more of the sort of line member who doesn't really understand how to math, churning out more of the carbides. But I think this is going to be an interesting market to watch. Again, watch the middle. Hypersynaptic fibers are down slightly. That would be a decent one to be doing some buy orders on. At least that's what I think, though that one might hurt. And if we zoom in, dysprosium, again, we're seeing that we saw a big glut of it coming out during World War B. And now with new masters rejiggering their reactions, we're seeing supplies drop down and prices track up again. And this I expect to wash through the market. It takes about a week and a half to 2 weeks to really see these trends really bubble through the entire market. So, but it also might get offset by the lowered fuel costs and lowered ship throughput might put a damper on the final products. Next, darlings of the Citadel release, P4s. Things are looking relatively stable. We were seeing some peaks in recursive computing modules last week, but things look relatively straight. The integrity response drones are the interesting blip here, in my opinion. But I don't know if that pressure can really stay, per se. Moving on to the general outliers, Eagles was an interesting peak this last week or two. We've seen a few, looks like a few places might be buying them out to try them. I am too old a bitter vet to ever fly an Eagle again because they've always been hot garbage. So I really can't tell anyone to buy them because they really should they're a dumpster fire. They always have been a dumpster fire. But I don't PvP, so I can't really tell you how to fit the thing. I just find it interesting. We went up to, we added 50 million for no particularly good reason. Next, the Brutix Navy issue is tracking particularly high. Again, this is another weird one that I don't expect to ever spike because I expect Galente faction warfare guys to just destroy it the second prices look any good. Prices are trending high. Supplies, demand is looking pretty healthy. The trend is looking down, though, into the weekend, so if you wanted to jump on this, you really need to be doing it now or Friday, and I think the party's going to be over by Saturday or Sunday. Next, the Zealot. Again, another interesting one. This one looks like it got bought out for a fleet meta change, but I don't know if that fleet meta really materialized in real fights. Again, it didn't trigger my some of my PvP scrapers, so I don't know where all the zealots went. The prices are still reasonably high where they are at the moment, but the prices are weird here. It's weird to see a spike like this, like somebody was stocking up for a big meta change, and then not to see it reflected in the PvP numbers at all. And that might just be bad on my PvP numbers. Next is the Ishtar, which again keeps tracking up. We're over 200 million at the moment. To anybody who is holding on to their Ishtars, this is a great chance to be getting out of your Ishtars. If you are heading out to the north to go kill Guristas, the Ishtar is a popular choice. I think this might actually get back to prevalence in the next few weeks because with carrier ratting getting a ninja nerf thanks to the fax split, the Ishtar and the Gila might be interesting platforms again for ratters, just because they are so easy mode. On to one of the last sections of the show where we find out if I know what the hell I'm talking about. We're going to start where we usually do with the jump freighters, just because I like tracking jump freighters. Things are looking relatively stable. Not a whole lot to see this week. I probably shouldn't have included this. And then rattlesnakes. I have been hesitant to tell you guys to buy rattlesnakes. Because the signals come in and then I look a little deeper and I just can't believe them. They look too weird to be true. And then the prices pop up again. Looks like supplies are a little bit weak at the moment. So if you're bought into rattlesnakes and you're smarter than I am, I'd love to hear about it because I really should have called this. I think that we're going to go down from 450 back down to 400. I just don't know how long that's going to take. It could be 1 week. It could be 3 weeks. Just weird to have egg on my face for that one. And then a quick run around our violence report to close out the show. Top 5 most active, not 5 active ships, it's 10 active ships because I'm bad at labels. We're still seeing the Svipul winning the day on that. Cerberus, Gila, Ishtar, and Macariel still popular. Thanatos coming up from the carrier ranks. Not a whole lot interesting coming on this graph, in my opinion. The most active systems, though, is interesting with Saranin again bubbling up to the top thanks to a particularly bad day with, what was it, 6 Citadels lost by the Goonswarm Federation. That's got to hurt. Something like 150 billion ISK just killed in an instant. So sorry, you guys, but it does help the market if that counts for anything. O1Y continues to track the top of our activity charts as well, so things continue to stay hot. And then active regions, we're seeing that a lot of the nullsec regions are being replaced by the hot lowsec regions. So Black Rise and Lone Trek and Citadel are back on the map, and Fade is the interesting new addition, I believe, this week. All right, and that's going to go ahead and end our show. I've been your host, Lockefox, and you've been watching the Eve Prosper Show. If you want to tune in live, you can do so on YouTube and Twitch at 0300 on Fridays. That's Thursday night US. If you want to follow the show, the best way to do so is just remember Eve Prosper. That will get you to Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and our blog. Be sure to subscribe on all of those. You guys know the drill. Just some quick reiterations. One, we will be going on hiatus after June 3rd. So be sure to tune into the shows until then. Let's see. We should have more news about some new APIs for you guys if you want to get at Eve. If you want to get at the Eve Prosper databases, we're going to be trying to open that up over the next few weeks. So keep tuned to the blog for that news. And if you want to support the show, if you like what we do, if you get value from this show, the very best way to do so is through our Patreon at patreon.com/EveProsper. Our patrons keep this ad-free, keep us on the air week over week, keep the bills paid on all the servers. They make this show possible. If you can support the show, we extremely appreciate it. Now, we do understand we're going into hiatus, and I know people don't particularly want to pay a bill for a show that may not be on the air. Emails will be going out to all patrons, but please consider it. Even $1 goes a long way. And I will be looking into getting swag for you guys, especially some of our longer contributors. But I'm not going to announce any of that until I actually have swag in hand. So, thank you again, everybody who's tuned in. Thanks, everybody who's tuned in live. I've been your host, Lockefox. This has been the Eve Prosper Show, and we will be back next week with more graph porn. And that makes a show. So, if you guys are willing to give me just a minute, I got to go refill my drink and step away for like 5 minutes. Feel free to start asking questions in the chat. I know Caleb's on. I don't know if I know it's like retarded o'clock where you are, Caleb, but I'm going to try and keep the post show short this week. I'm crunched at work and I really can't stay up that late. So give me 5 minutes, and I'll be right back. And feel free to ask questions and mull around in the chat rooms. Again, it's great to see what looks like 60-ish people, 70-ish people. Great turnout this week. I will be right back. Enjoy the soothing Jita undock. Blow up a freighter or something if you're watching live. Ha! We're back. Okay, questions. I have questions. Wormhole stuff. So unless wormhole stuff triggers the flag, I don't tend to show it, especially with how weak the Tech 3 markets have been. If they're not moving significantly, I think it's not worth the airtime for a lot of the T3 markets. So, sorry. Especially when they're basically in lockstep with other markets. So we saw during the cash crunch, everybody was liquidating, and this meant things like melted nanoribbons were crashing in price because a lot of supply was coming out of the woodworks. It feels redundant on my side to spend a lot of time on T3 when like the T3 hulls aren't overly popular at the moment. I mean, they're useful, they're just not top of the meta. Even with a Svipul as popular as it is, it doesn't consume a lot, and the prices are very stable for how much volume we actually end up seeing. So that's why I do the thing. Eastward, yes, thank you for tuning in. I am in Kirkland, by the way, so we should get an Eve meetup going. I just don't know the area well enough to like know where a good bar is for people to come by. I've been downtown into Seattle like twice, so let's see, who else mentioned offshore trading relating to Citadels. And Webster did explain this in the YouTube channel. The idea is that if you trade in JITA and you put in buy orders, you're going to pay higher taxes. You're going to pay about 4%, 3.5%, 4% once everything's said and done if you're going to do station margin trading in JITA 4.4. And if you use a Citadel instead, you pay the Citadel's fees instead of JITA's fees, and you're going to be paying more like 1% instead of 4%. And so what you do is you set up remote buy orders given a radius, and you add a little bit of extra freight weight overhead, and you can sort of cheese the tax system. Now, that's the proposal, and a lot of it is sort of in that gray, is it really working as intended space? So keep an eye on that. Again, if you really, really, really want to know about it, Rivra is the master for it. She knows all of the stuff. She is on the bleeding edge of that particular meta, and I will be actually going to her as opposed to going through me with the information. So let me actually... Amateur hour over here. So it's an interesting concept. I think it's... So again, and I should have done this better in the show. This is my bad. Citadels are going to be is going to make this show weird. I'm hoping that the Crest history feed, the one that shows the history in game, when you hit the history tab, I'm hoping that Citadel volume does not break that. Because if that breaks, then I'm just going to have to throw my hands up in the air and be a petulant dick. They don't show up in the order book, so there's no way for me to know what the real buy-sell spread is when those Citadel orders will not show up in the order book. I'm okay with this. I'm okay with a couple percentage points of error. If you're making your money on the 1% difference, you don't need me. You have your shit figured out. You're gonna go do it your own way. It's a niche market. It's a huge. You are playing with a grade of fire that I do not care to service at the moment. So if a lot of business moves over to Citadels, we're going to have a problem because the show runs entirely off of APIs. Every single graph can only be generated because there's an API feeding me data. All of the data is public. We don't have any special privileged feeds. We just have a lot of data just by using the tools at hand. And if those tools break down in quality, then this show breaks down in quality. And I'm just going to have to close up the show if I can't do it well. The goal of this show was to be the technical analysis for market reporting. And if my technicals are going to be that shoddy, then I don't want to feed you guys bad information. That just looks bad at me, and it makes my job super frustrating. I don't want to give you guys any bad data that even though I know that my predictions are pretty laughably bad. We're gonna see what we can do in the meantime. I'm not gonna give up until it's time to actually give up. Don't count your chickens until you've graphed them. And there are sub markets that I just, but all of the markets that really make a living off of Citadels, that are really sitting there going, oh God, Citadels are my jam, are all markets that I wasn't going to track anyway. If they're refiners, I don't care about refiners. We don't track the refining margin. We don't track the compression margins. We don't track the buy sell spreads yet. We're going to. The only ones that's really going to make a problem is that if the total buy order count starts looking bad, if that becomes unreliable, that's going to be a problem. But until then, I'm not gonna be a dick about it. So, next, reaction tower making ferrite carbide. So working in carbides is hard. In that you, how do I put this? So your margin was already pretty thin to start. I hope that you have sovereignty bonuses, because otherwise I'd tear that tower down in a heartbeat. Without a sov bonus, you're going to lose money. I don't know how to give you specific information, Mad Bohemian, because those markets go up and they go down so fast that I don't have a good tool to forecast for you. And they're going to be very supply driven and demand driven. And with ships going down, I think you're going to see the prices go down. But again, I don't know what your fuel bill is going to look like while we do that. So, make a spreadsheet is the best I can say. Is own what you're doing and really dig into it and make sure that you understand the demands. Especially the thing I find super useful is to track the buy order count and the sell order count to give you an idea of the actual supplies and demand, more so than the crest sold numbers. But that's the deal. So yeah, next question is Optical Illusion is asking, with holding on to 29 bill in advanced PI materials, which I have on the market at 60% profit, worth holding on to a little longer or drop the profit. So I think that the party's basically over for PI. I mean, sell as high as you can, especially holding 29 billion. I think you can play some of the weekend peaks a little bit better for a couple extra percentage points. But I don't think that there's going to be. I have a hard time showing a particular peak to jump out on to make an extra 5% for sure. I would just look at it. Just depends how fast you want to get paid, and I would be. Personally, I would want to get out sooner now than later, but that's a personal feeling that I don't. Once a sell date comes, I really want to be out of that market. So that's a personal thing. Let's see. Noon Samniak is asking, are there any resources to learn how to get started in trading? The thing I would look up, if you really don't know what the hell you're doing, is to go look up the 10,000 ISK challenge. There have been a couple of blogs, a couple of YouTube videos, and they're going to talk about the sort of things to do if you really don't know what the hell you're doing at all. Now, the caveat here is that, and I've talked about this on previous shows, is that there are levels of there are bands of activity, and so like getting to that first billion is one of the lower bands because you're willing to do all the work for all of the margin, right? That if I'm only working with 100 million ISK, I'm going to go get my ship out and I'm going to go haul that from there, and I'm going to do all of the low efficiency, high return kind of activities, and that will make you money, but it will take a lot of effort. As you transition to higher bands, my pro tip here is to go and really dig into a market and understand it. So personally, my favorite is the moon material markets. They are of particular interest to me. I did Tech 2 production for a very long time. That whole market makes a lot of sense to me, and I've built tools to look at. I've done trading tools in the past where you go and understand all the pieces and try to beat the market, and I've had success there. But like, that's a facet, or you might want to look at the rigs market as a facet, or cross-hub arbitrage is a facet, or high meta items are a facet. Try to find a thing that you understand and really just own the fuck out of it, is how you go from the 1 billion to the 10 billion. And then 10 billion up, well, when you find out the secret of how to leverage more than 10 billion without a whole ton of effort, I would love to hear it, because that's what keeps me out of a lot of the markets these days, is that I just do not have the kind of time required to babysit those kind of investments. So that's at least my opinion on that. Hopefully that was helpful. There are some guides. I know if you look up, I think EP064 has a guide. There's a guy who's like Australian and wearing sunglasses. He does a guide on all of the pieces of the market. It's a few years old, but it's fucking adorable. I love it. Let's see. Dispro spike. Optical Illusions asking about the Dispro spike. So what happened is that you need to turn it upside down. We're not spiking up. We spiked down. As Goons lost all of their territory, they were sitting on a good number of the Dispro moons out in the north and the west. And with new masters coming in, you had two things going on. You had the old masters selling off any of their bulks, their bulk stores, to try and get cash and just get out of it and fire sale and whatever. But you also had new masters coming in the heat of battle and saying, well, look, I can just turn it on and we can get dysprosium, and just sucking dysprosium out is worth it. So they sent it out raw. And now that the fighting has stopped and we're getting back into peacetime, that means that they can go set up their towers correctly and use that dysprosium. So we're seeing the 1-2 punch of extra supply drying up, and we're getting back to normal rather than spiking up, is the way to think about that. Next is Max Mori asking about seeding nullsec markets. Seeding markets, it's always like, I know it makes a ton of money, but it's not inherently obvious in my opinion. So what you want to do is understand whatever your local meta is. Understand whatever the ships du jour are. I really love fitted ship contracts. They're a great guaranteed margin. They're a luxury product. They're super useful. The that's really the core of it. There are a few other things you can do, especially when you start going around to like drugs is a great spot to be supplying if you're willing to be patient. The other pieces are sort of the replacement parts. So stuff like if one meta item needs to be like if you got webs, for instance, and you don't have any more of the J5s left and you need to go use a different meta one, that's a spot that can be done, but that takes a lot more dedication and work. So my quick tips on that is to look at fitted ship contracts, make sure you're supplying in the meta, and everything that just needs to get burned. Those are the sort of things you want to be supplying. So your ratting ships, your haulers is not a bad one. Your ammo, all of those kind of things. Someone was asking about what to do about buying more fuel. Sorry, Mad Bohemian, I did skip over you. So what I would do for fuel. One, I'd want to be in a Galente tower. That's my number one. I know that they aren't as CPU efficient, but they are the lazy man's POS. The prices are also extremely competitive at the moment. I think it's a good chance to stock up on either raw fuel blocks or isotopes. It depends on how much work you're willing to do. I think the blocks are smaller than the prerequisite parts, so I would tend to say go get the blocks and just get them locally sourced. Just get them moved and set up. It's a good chance to be buying in. Understand that you may be losing another 3 or 4 or 5% of those prices, so I wouldn't stock up more than maybe 45 days worth, just to be safe. Depending, it's a little hard to say. I'd have to zoom in a little further to really tell you if you're really buying at the bottom or if there's a little bit more floor to go to. I think the prices can slide a little bit more, but stocking up an extra 30, 45 days won't hurt that much, even if things go particularly weird. Twitch streaming. Twitch is still streaming, so Twitch should be just fine. Yeah, Twitch is fine. It's just you. More questions. Any more questions? Really got to start wrapping this up here real soon because I got to get to bed. There's a big project to finish at work and stuff. Don't unfollow. Follow me everywhere. Be my creepy stalker. Oh, and go send praise to CCP Mimic for finally doing what I asked her to do for 6 months and dual streaming the 07 show to YouTube so that all the people who have Twitch blocked can actually watch the 07 show live. So I was happy to see that. I mean, I'm totally going to take credit for that because I am the best, the most beta, the most greatest. What? So there's a here blah blah blah. It's over now, but it wasn't changing. Okay. That is a new feed on me, so follow there, okay. I'm on the entire internet, yeah, so yeah, that's the deal there. I have the best words. I do have the best words. You guys, it's too bad it was butt crack o'clock in the morning. I should have streamed it for Europe. It would have been funny. Sorry guys, I'll do that next time. So quick story time because I've got 5 more minutes before I gotta bail. So I was guard bugs me to go post something for the '07 show, and I'm like, sure, yeah, I want to go. There's no better exposure than the '07 show, right? And so I've been busting ass all week to get the API feeds done, and I'm so freaking close, so close. They're going to need a little bit of rework, but we can have them launched this weekend. I'm going to be happy about that. I was hoping to launch them today so that we could be like, and check out eveprosper.com or go check on Mogul to see the new technicals, blah 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 blah. Didn't make that deadline, but tried really 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 hard to do so. So last night, usually I do those market briefs the night before, where I'll pull all the graphs and I'll pick out the things that are worth cramming into a 5-minute show, and then try to shove that into a 3-minute window. And so I have to write a script, and I have to rejigger some graphs because sometimes there are things that are wrong that need to be fixed. It ends up being like a 3-hour affair to make 3 minutes of video. It's embarrassing. So I'm working last night to try and get the total PvP activity graph finished, and instead playing Rocket League because I'm just burned out from grinding on all the code I've been grinding on this week. And but I got the graph done and all that stuff, and so I'm like, I'll just record it in the morning. So I get up, I go and I fix the final stuff on the graph because it turns out that I needed to add that moving average thing so that it smoothed out. And I still don't love that, but I'll fix it. I'll fix it again, or I'll add a lows smoother. I don't know which. One of those two. And I get up at 6 in the morning, and I'm working on fixing the graph until 7. And I'm trying to record the stupid audio, and every time I do it, it doesn't work. So I spend a half an hour futzing with I'm Lockefox, and welcome to the Eve Prosper show, and I can't say words because words are hard and reading scripts is hard. So I have to go rewrite the script 3 times. I finally get it recorded. I go load it into Premiere, and then I realize that, oh no, I cut too tight, for instance. So I had it at 2 minutes 30 seconds, and it was just way too fast. So I had to extend everything out, which was a real pain in the ass. It's easy to cut, it's hard to add. And then I was dropping in the graphs, and the resolution was shitty, so it was let me go reprocess them in GIMP to get the fucking badges on everything. And it was just a fucking nightmare. Get it encoded, get it sent off. It took 3 It took 3 hours to get everything done like it usually does, and 3 hours before '07 even went live. So I have to go send a thank you to Guard because that was so last minute. I felt like a douche, super douche. But it came out well. It looked good. I didn't fuck up the levels on the music, so that was cool. I did add too much white space at the start, but that's fine. So. And yeah, I'm glad that everybody likes the ginger beard, so. Really? Really? Okay, we're going to call that a show. Hope you guys enjoyed. The VOD should be up on YouTube now. I know I've been bad about not editing. I'm going to still be bad about not editing. I don't have the kind of time to edit right now. We're going to see about getting the APIs up. We should have OH... fucking goddamn it. Kerban. And any more? Any more? Are we good? Gonna see about getting the OHLC feed out. by Saturday. I did promise that to Jeronica. We should have it up on Eve Mogul soon. He has prototypes already ready to catch the data because he's better than I am at this. And I over-engineered the living bullshit out of the freaking API feed. You guys have no idea. You should go look at the source code. Be sure to join on the Tweetfleet Slack and bug me in the Prosper channel if you want to talk with me. I do see Eve mails. I am just dreadfully slow at answering them because I just don't log in as much as I really should. Best place to get me is at the Eve Prosper channel on the thing. So that's going to call it a show. Thanks everybody who tuned in, especially you European bros who I know it's just but o'clock in the morning. So that's a thing. So good night, fly safe, make money. Oh, and if you either make money or lose money off my advice, I do want to hear about it. So be sure to send me love and hate mail. I do appreciate both of them. And that's a show.